Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 111th episode of the Run, Try, Bike Fireside Chat. Earlier today, we had the first episode of Running Tales with Craig Lewis on our live feed, and we are excited about the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, as we will also be having a live show with Joe Harden called Beyond the Finish Line next week. We've had recently caffeinated coaching with Lori Hauk on the show. And then starting again in 2 weeks, we'll be back with Food Fight Friday at the aid station with Adam Lee of Community Trail Running. So the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network is up and running. And today we are welcoming a very special guest to the show. We will be welcoming Jasmine Sanchez, who is the founder of Vessel Athletics, which is the creator of the Hydro shirt and one of the founders of Founded Outdoors, a home for outdoor business entrepreneurs. With all that said, you would think that the outdoor lifestyle has been a part of her life from the beginning. But in actuality, she started with basketball before accidentally getting into running in 2017. Without further waiting, let's bring Jasmine to the show and find out how she went from basketball to running to entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show, Jasmine. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, welcome, or thank you for having me, and it's great to be here.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to be able to chat with you on our fireside chat. You and I spent some time together a few months ago for your feature on our How It All Started, which is on our website today. If anybody wants to go to runtrimag.com to learn a little bit more about Jasmine, please do so. Also, while I have the audience's attention, if you have any questions or comments, please drop them into the chat boxes and we'll make sure we'll get them over to Jasmine. So without waiting any longer, give us a little bit of background of how basketball, the sport that you played, kind of got you into running back in 2017.
Yeah. So I always like to start off with the childhood sports in that whole, era of mine. And because it's been so like pivotal, I mentioned during one of our conversations, Jason, that like movement and sports and just the physical movement is like putting deodorant on in the morning. Like I have to do it. And like if I miss it, if I'm not at least, being active like 5 times a week, then I'm like, oh, like it just feels icky, and so that really started off with like this love for basketball early on. And I played all throughout. I basically played in elementary, middle school, and even in high school, played some competitive leagues over the summer, all that stuff. So that was kind of like my first love, like I said. And then, you graduate high school, and now it was like, okay, not only did I not have my, high school childhood friends, I was at this new kind of place in my life, going to a new university, trying to meet people. But I also didn't have this, sport that offered some sense of community at some point in my life. And I basically, my form of staying active was just going to the gym and maybe getting on the treadmill or the elliptical, doing some, weight training, all that stuff. But I think what I just, like, I even like kind of cringe at the idea still of like, oh, I really deep down inside hated going to the gym. There was no sense of community. And sometimes, it's like people would like, I mean, no offense, but like there would be some mansplaining that would take place and just, unwelcome mansplaining. And so that was kind of the memory I had. And, but like I said, that I started to kind of like, I was doing some cardio on the treadmill. I was like, oh, let me sign up for this local race that happens every single year in San Jose, called the 408K. And oddly enough, it's like an actual 8K, which is like such an odd distance. But hey, that was like the thing that kind of pulled me in. And to my surprise, I loved it. I had an incredible time. I ran it by myself. I didn't, have a friend or anything that did it. But I was like, this is so awesome. I was so proud of the fact that I did the whole race and didn't stop running once. So that kind of then just trickled. It trickled into, oh, what's next? Like, can I do a longer distance? And then I started to just transition out of the gym and running on the trails in my area. And so fast forward to today. So, I mean, obviously go more into that. But that was kind of the inception, the beginning roots
That's
of
an,
my
that's an amazing journey to take, right? Where it's like, I love basketball. I love the sport. I love, the physical nature of it all, the running, the moving, and then all of a sudden not there. And I think that's a part of a lot of people's story when it comes to getting involved in running, where they go from participating in what we would call the four major sports in the US, right? Hockey, basketball, football, or baseball, to now running. I know when I played sports in high school, I played baseball and football. Like, I looked at running as punishment. And I would always see the kids running around the track thinking to myself, why are you doing that? Like, that's dumb. Just go do something else. Why are you running? So when you played basketball, was running like, hey, I don't mind doing this? Or was it like, man, this stinks. I got to go, do shuttle drills because I missed a free throw?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I forgot to mention that I absolutely despised running for many reasons. So number one, especially in high school, we would start conditioning like 2 months before the season actually started. And so that was like still in the South Bay, because I went to school in Morgan Hill, which is like 30 minutes south of San Jose. And so that's still, you're kind of still meeting like very hot temperatures in the summer. That was like around August, September time. And we would be running around the track, also running around the track where like our football field was. So it was funny because the football team of my high school, they'd be practicing, and there would be multiple times where they'd come up to us and they're like, dang, your coach is making you run a lot. And so I hated running. I mean, running was like, I just have like these vivid memories of us having to do so many, like just get on the line and do these running drills if we didn't make enough free throws, like we didn't make 10 straight free throws, things like that.
The absolute worst.
And probably the cherry on top was the fact that like I was probably one of the slowest runners on my basketball team. So I was always feeling like, oh, I really have to pull my weight here, So it's kind of funny, if I met my high school self, she'd be like, what the heck are you doing?
It's crazy, man. Like when you said that about like the standing on the line, that with the free throws, that is a drill that we ran when in the short season that I played basketball, and it was like you missed the free throw, the entire team pays the price together because you're a team, and like just doing like all those runs like in the scrimmage line, like the free throw ones, and just man, it's just crazy to hear about that from somebody else. It's just wild.
Exactly.
So basketball is a team sport, right? When you win, you celebrate as a team. When you lose, you talk to each other. Running is very individualistic to some extent, right? You might have friends that run with you. You might have a coach, let's say. For you, what's the comparison between having the team sport in basketball and then running, where it's all on you, especially coming after the statement you made where you were one of the slowest on the basketball team, so you had to pull your weight to help the other members out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the beginning of the first few years of my running journey it felt a lot more individualistic, where especially, I mean, even present day, if I sign up for like a big race, then it's like I'm oftentimes doing the long train runs. And then of course, like actual race day, especially for the bigger runs, I'm oftentimes doing those races by myself and just trying to find any ounce of like mental will to push myself through those last few miles, especially like for a marathon. But I also think right now, present day as well, especially with like the Kickstarter launch and all of that, I haven't actually signed up for any big races. And so I've like been in this very fun, casual, like no pressure point in my life around just like having access to so many incredible running communities in the San Francisco area. And it just feels like it actually does feel like you're part of a team. I joined one of the groups that I join pretty frequently they're called Unseen Run Club. And what's cool is like we oftentimes we meet every Monday. And so during one of the Monday runs, we go to this, we run around in like the mission part of San Francisco. And sometimes we run to this park called Dolores, and that's kind of like the midpoint. And everybody waits until all the runners get there, and then we continue. And I think that it's like the waiting part that was like happened maybe like a month ago when people were, getting to the midpoint. We started clapping, cheering them on, especially because you had to like run up this like crazy hill, Dolores Park. And so
San Francisco has hills.
what was that? Oh yeah,
San Francisco has hills.
yeah, I know. Yeah. So that, I mean, that really feels like a team, So it's like for me, I look at my running journey as like there's just different periods, there's different chapters based on what I'm trying to accomplish in my own life and just like physical sports endeavor. So yeah, I kind of have a little bit of both.
So I want to ask you a little bit more about that run club. I really like the name Unseen. Tell me a little bit more about like why the name is Unseen and what that club means to you as a whole.
Yeah, so the club was started by Justin Williams. I think it was maybe started 2021, 2022. So it's a fairly new run. Or you know what? Because I moved to San Francisco last year. So 2023, because it just got started the same year that I moved. So it was started by Justin Williams, and he's actually born and raised in LA. So that was kind of where his running journey began. And then he, I think, moved to San Francisco at some point, realized, hey, there's not really a run club for, specifically geared towards a diverse community of runners. I want to see more. He was specifically wanted to see more runners of color have a community, a home to go to. And since then, it's flourished into, a huge community where it's like on some of the Mission Monday runs, like we probably see like 60, 70 plus runners join. And so, yeah, that was spearheaded by Justin. And I got to give a shout out to Justin and Unseen because he was part of our Kickstarter promo video as well. And he's been like a huge advocate for the work that we've done. And like, without even asking, he's always sharing everything, like our updates and all that. So overall, just like an incredibly passionate guy about the sport of running and like, who we should be kind of like welcoming in terms of like joining the sport, So yeah, I think that's kind of what pulled me in as well for that run club, is that they're kind of open to runners of all paces, coming from different backgrounds, beginners, people who've been running for many, many years, etc. So
I really like that sense of community, and I really, going back to one of the things you said about them like waiting for people to come and like stopping at certain points, that kind of reminds me of an experience I had recently with the club in upstate New York that we run Uptown. And they do a very similar thing. And I just love seeing these organizations, these clubs on the ground pushing inclusivity, because if we're being honest, it's one thing to talk about all paces welcome and everybody's a 7-minute pace versus like actually doing the deed and like pushing the people who are last and like treating everybody the same and giving everybody that space and freedom to have that community. So really cool to hear that. I did have a question, because you talked about chapters of your life and running, and it's just really cool how this sport can like ebb and flow in like different parts of your life and your journey. So I want to ask you, when you do have like a dial, like for instance, right now, while you're working on the business, you've taken more of a fun and community kind of stance versus like doing more races. Do you find that transition to be pretty natural, or does it require like a bit of like working around like the aspects of your life in a more intentional way?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of came up during the conversation that Jason and I had about a month ago, which is like I'm kind of the natural me is I'm a type A planning person, so there's a little bit of that aspect that comes into play, especially when I'm like thinking about what big race to sign up for next. And so that was kind of the intentionality around, all right, I don't want to sign up for any big races until I kind of get the Kickstarter out of the way and like that initial lift that's required of me for the business launch. So I'm not trying to juggle two things at once, and I've learned that the hard way over the years, that like, by taking on way too much and just like overwhelming myself. So that was the goal this year. And when I'm during that, like the off season, like I'll call it the off season of when I'm not necessarily training for a race, then I'm always getting hit with all these Instagram ads for these really cool races. And I'm like, that itch is always present. And so I have to like talk myself through this, like, you're working on the business right now, like look for something at the end of this year if you really want to do a marathon again. So yeah.
Got to stay off David Callahan's website, the good old ultra sign up. We love you, David, but you're a bad influence in the off season.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel exactly what you're saying, because I've decided to sort of take this unstructured approach to training right now, where I'm swim, bike, and run with no ultimate race goal. But I do want to either do another Ironman or a 100-mile race next year, 2025. And a large part of that is because of being an entrepreneur, and you do feel like you're getting tugged in a million different directions and a million different days of the week, and it's can be unbearable at some days, so I totally understand where you're coming from, which I'd like to get into the entrepreneur side of the conversation with Vessel Athletics. We were introduced to you by Elisa Otto of Automatic Threads a few months ago, and we were able to schedule a time to chat. But you are one of two founders, I believe, for Vessel Athletics and the unique Hydro shirt. So talk to us a little bit about Vessel Athletics as a whole, and then we can dive into the Hydro shirt with more specificity.
Sure. Yeah. So in short, so the actual brand, our company name is called Vessel Athletics, as we were saying. So a little bit about kind of the brand is we're positioning ourselves as a functional performance wear brand. And the whole idea is we want to create products that redefine how runners hydrate on the go. And so that can be seen with our first product, which we just launched on Kickstarter a month ago, which is called the Hydro shirt. So what the Hydro shirt is, it's essentially like a lightweight running shirt that integrates a 1 liter water bladder built inside of the actual shirt. And so the whole, to kind of summarize, like the whole design or the concept behind the Hydro shirt was we wanted to design something that allowed runners to seamlessly carry water with them without adding the inconvenience of weight or slosh that, you might see in some of the other hydration solutions that are currently on the market. So that's kind of, what Vessel is and how that's tied to Hydro shirt, which is part of this, launch that we just wrapped up.
Walk me through really quick, if you can. Like I'm always amazed at inventions, right? And your shirt is an invention. And so when you're sitting there thinking to yourself about hydration, sloshing, and how do you come to this idea that you want to make a shirt versus another version of a vest? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the idea came from, this is back to like 2017 is when I kind of found running. And then maybe around 2018, end of 2018, early 2019 is kind of when I started to specifically do long distance runs. So, I mentioned growing up or, running in the South Bay, it gets incredibly hot in the summer, and sometimes even into fall. And so I realized at a certain point, hey, I need to start carrying water with me on my runs. And so I started off with like the standard hydration backpack. And I was like, okay, this is like kind of bulky, it's heavy. Transitioned over to a vest, felt kind of similar. Brought the handheld bottle as well. And I didn't really particularly want to be carrying something in my hand the entire time. I didn't, especially like juggling between a gel when you're still running and like holding the bottle, it's like kind of a pain in the ass. And then if you're running on a trail, especially a very technical trail, I mean, sometimes I like to have like both my hands clear and free in case I'm gonna, eat it. And so that was kind of the whole, like I went through, and it wasn't just all at once, that was probably took place over like many months of using certain different products and kind of testing out different products. And at a certain point that as like that pain point continued to trickle, it just kind of came into my mind. Like, I wonder if there's a way to actually put a bladder inside of just a running shirt. And I remember actually, going on Google and seeing if there was something like that. And no, there wasn't. And was cool too is at that time I was, I went to San Jose State where I studied business, and then took some, and like actually my major's focus was around entrepreneurship. And so what's cool is that a lot of the classes I was taking were very much in line with this beginning idea, which is like, cool, someone has an idea, but like that idea doesn't really mean anything unless you go out and validate that there's a need, that you're actually, whatever solution you're trying to build is solving a problem, right? And so that was kind of like the next thing. Like, I have this idea, I have this pain point that doesn't seem to be anything like this on the market. Is there a way to make this lighter, to obviously make this hands-free where you're not having to hold the bottle, and also make it stable so the bladder is not moving? And so, me being what I like know as like an incredibly introverted person, I realized I had to go out and start talking to people, strangers, people who are runners, and ask them, what kind of hydration products are they using? And so I remember I started going to some of the local trails in San Jose. I would even basically figure out what races were happening in my area, and then go once the race had ended, and I would go up to people who had like a hydration pack or whatever, one of those products, a belt, and I would be like, I would use the college student card, because that always, kind of like wins a little sympathy. I'm like, hey, I'm a college student and I'm working on this project. Can I ask you some questions for like 10 minutes? And so that was like the research part, where you go out and you speak to people. And that's kind of when I realized, okay, a lot of people are still saying that they're unsatisfied with their hydration solution. And that those reasons span, like, there's a lot of reasons why, but that was kind of the thing first. I was just trying to kind of uncover what were some of the biggest pain points that people were experiencing with their hydration products. Once I got to a point where it's like I validated, okay, there is this gap, and now how do I start developing the product? What comes after that? And that's when prototyping began and all that stuff. So yeah, I'll pause there and see what you want to dive into next. But that was kind of the whole process there, the thought process of what led me to that, invention point.
Well, first I have to say we have a comment from our community leader, Adam Ture, saying SJSU Spartans stand up.
Yes, go Spartans.
And he also says, brilliant product idea.
Thank you.
One thing I do want to ask is, as somebody who's done everything from a 5K to multi-day races, what kind of runs would you find yourself using the Hydro Shirt on?
Yeah, great question, because my point earlier is like, there's runners it's like being a runner is such a broad term. There's so many different types of segments of running and runners. And so I think the sweet spot for this particular first product is somewhere between you're training for like a half marathon all the way up to a 50K. Maybe you're either training or you're actually doing a half marathon all the way up to a 50K. Once you start to get past into the longer distances, we haven't really added certain features like, being able to carry trekking poles or being able to stash like, we have some pockets where you can stash some snacks, but sometimes when you're doing really, really long distances, you probably want to stash a little bit more than just like your standard gels and all that stuff. So that's kind of the sweet spot, is between the half marathon to 50K distance, or just like training in general.
I think that's really cool. Sorry, Jason. I just wanted to add that I think that's really cool. And people don't realize, with all the pockets in running, how diverse that is to be able to have from that distance to a 50K, because there are so many different like pockets of running besides like just, and there's also like the time you're doing, the type of run you're doing. And so it's just really cool to hear that the product has that kind of range.
Question I was going to ask is, how big is the bladder that the shirt holds? And then is it, if you're on it could be a very hot day, right? And so your liquid needs might be more than the bladder in the middle of a race. Is it easy, or can it be easy to get the bladder refilled, even on a training run, not necessarily just a race?
Yeah. So the capacity for this the first, product is 1 liter or 32 ounces. And that's for this particular first product is the easiest way to actually refill during a run is to try and have somebody else kind of pull the bladder out or refill it. And so that was actually one thing that we were like, it was kind of hard to go through that design process around like, oh, is there a way to kind of like grab the bladder if you wanted to refill during some kind of a run, which is what led us to kind of like really honing in on a specific distance of runner right now. That's why earlier I was like, you're doing something even beyond, like even a 50K or beyond a 50K, maybe the capacity you're going to need 2 liters or something even, beyond that 2.5 liters. So right now that's kind of the easiest way is just like having, if you're even, like some of the runs too, they have actually people who will fill up the bladders for you. So that's kind of that was the thought process there. But something that we really would love to like get a little bit more creative around for a future design.
I mean, it's fascinating to me as an entrepreneur myself, right? We're not in the retail space or merchandise space. We sell services, but it's always fascinating to me to hear an entrepreneur talk about, this is why we decided to do this, and maybe we can go down the road a little bit more. One of the things that we talked about in the green room was the fact that your Kickstarter campaign ended about 4 days ago, and you as an entrepreneur are super hands-on in packaging up all these shirts and shipping them out. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I don't think people really understand sort of what the small business entrepreneurial life is like. It's not just, hey, I've got a product, let me go sell it to everybody, make millions of dollars, and all of a sudden have 35 employees and whatnot.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. I wish it was that easy, but the reality is we put this funny video on reel on Instagram a month ago before we even went live on Instagram, where it was like me, my co-founder and partner Jalen, and then my dog Luna, and we were like, oh, we gave ourselves. There was kind of like a joke behind it, which is like, I'm the social media manager, and I'm like, the PR person, and then Jalen's the copywriter, and then we're both like the designers, and we're both customer service and sales, and Luna's our emotional support, our therapist, right? So and which is like, that was a joke, but that's also the truth. It's like you have so many, so many different hats to wear when you're starting up a business and you don't have a lot of funds to go out and outsource additional staffers, and you kind of have to do everything all at once and be somehow good about managing the time. And so that is 100% the reality. And like I was mentioning before we started this call, which is this live session, was that I just spent this last weekend packaging up a lot of orders in and out between the family reunion that was taking place. So it was a crazy weekend. And like my neck was just killing me by the end of the weekend, because I was like looking down so much at packaging the orders. But at the same time, I wouldn't have it any other way, because at this point in my life, because it took so long to get here, to get the product to market, that it's like really nice to just be like, oh wow, I'm so grateful for these initial customers that like believe in this product and want to see this come to life and are actually going to be users of the product. So that's like, I joke around with like, oh yes, rolling my eyes, but at the same time, like there's an aspect to it too that's like, I do appreciate it, and I'm trying to take some of this in before at a certain point when maybe I'm not doing this anymore.
I do. Well, first off, before I follow up on that, I was laughing earlier when you were talking about being an introvert and talking to people, because when I first joined the ownership group of Run Try Bike, I'm also an introvert, and I had to come to the bold realization that I have to talk to people to be an entrepreneur and run a business.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, you have to talk every day, and you have to have conversations nonstop. And that, I mean, brings me right back full circle to what you were just talking about now, about just the different hats you have to wear. And like, talking is definitely one of them. And entrepreneurship is just a crazy thing. Like, I feel like sometimes because there aren't a lot of people who can understand it, it can be a lonely pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to try to find your community, which I think all three of us are trying to do in talking on LinkedIn and connecting with people and other entrepreneurs. So I have to ask you, in regards to that, and just in general, your entrepreneurship journey. For me, I personally feel like the years I've had as an entrepreneur are the most I've ever learned. Like, it feels like an accelerated learning curve. And I have to ask if you've had a similar experience in not just skills as a business owner, but like life skills and management skills. How has being an entrepreneur sharpened, like been like being iron in the fire for you?
Yeah. What was I going to say? I kind of blinked out around. Actually, do you mind repeating the question? Because I was on a roll and I was getting ready to just like spit fire, and then it just like left.
I'll be honest, I don't know if you watched The Office, but I totally Michael Scotted that question. I made it up as I was going, but
No, I was like, oh, this is, I was like itching to get started.
But basically, I'd like to know if you've picked up any, like, if you've picked up or honed any life skills or management skills from entrepreneurship, because I think it goes back to a lot of people not understanding that wearing all these hats and doing all these things day to day, like, you are on an accelerated learning curve.
Yes. Okay. There we go. So so what I was going to start by saying was that I always like to say that starting a business is like getting a real life MBA. And it's funny because I actually studied entrepreneurship, and I went to school for entrepreneurship because I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur so badly. And then I realized, I love my entrepreneurial professors. So, shout out to Professor Basu, who I'm still in touch with, but there's an aspect of it that you can't really teach, like you really have to go out and do. And that's like the biggest thing. And it's really easy to get stuck in just like wanting to perfect everything. And it feels scary to put everything out there, to put your idea, to put your face, your voice, all that stuff out there. But the reality is that if you just stay trying to prep and perfect, like nothing will ever actually start. And so I'm sure there's plenty of like really incredible quotes and flawless ways to say that. But I learned that from many books and, great entrepreneurs, but I've also learned that myself as well, that like at a certain point, you just have to launch, you just have to go, and so I think there's that aspect of just the risk taking that I've learned to get a little bit more used to and more comfortable with. There's been a lot of learning as I go, especially during the early years. Like I'd never, I don't have a design background. I'm not like an apparel designer. So I realized pretty early on that I had to go and outsource that support. And, we worked with a total of 3 designers, and the first one was like not very good, like because we kind of had a bad experience, like where we ultimately got screwed out of like several thousands of dollars when we were still in college, and so that was a kind of shitty experience. Sorry for cursing.
More than okay to curse.
More than okay.
But then the other 2 designers, Marissa and Nikki, were incredible to work with. So a lot of that was like, after that first experience, I like got better about learning what to ask a designer and like how to actually like interview somebody who I wanted to work with, whether it was from like a design perspective or branding perspective, etc. So yeah, I'm segueing like totally different, but that's kind of a lot of lessons along the way.
I think that's the key to entrepreneurship, is the willingness to take a risk and learning from the shitty experiences you have with bad designers, or for us, there's an account that may not pay their bill, right? You just learn through that process, the questions to ask. And I'm going to build on what you said earlier about going forward. My mentor, who got me to start this company, really is a naval officer, retired naval officer. And he would tell me all the time, stay in strategy land as long as you possibly can. But when it comes time, you have to rip that Band-Aid off and attack with fervent fire. Like, just go at it. Don't put your little toe in the water. Like, go at it full on and learn the lessons along the way. And clearly that's the scenario for you, which is also probably why, again, you're like, this shirt here is 32 ounces. And maybe we'll make version 2 in the iterations, and we'll get feedback, and we'll learn, and we'll do our market research and continue to grow the business that way, which I think is genius, right? As opposed to just taking a massive risk and then not having a company tomorrow. Like, it's okay. You want to take risks, but they can't be so big that they bury the business.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like a calculated risk. Yep.
And we have a mantra here at Run Try Bike about failure. Failure is not terminal; it's the building block to success. And I could think all three of us in this room, Jason and I for sure, with Run Try Bike, for every one idea that succeeds in our business, we've probably thrown a bunch of ideas. Like we talk, we text every single day, we have conversations every day, and we probably have like a bunch of throwaway ideas that just don't work out, or we try them and it doesn't pan out, or it backfires. And like, there's so many like failures that come along the way to just get that one success. And you just have to keep trying and taking risks and just giving yourself a chance.
Yep, totally. 100%.
Jasmine, with Vessel Athletics, like, you have a shirt, you've talked about a second iteration. Do you have a notebook filled with things that you might be considering for Vessel? Like, might there be and I'm clearly making this up, the hydro short, or the hat that holds like the water on the side, you know,
the hydro hat.
Yeah, like the hydro hat. Like, do you have just a list of things you're like, these might be ideas for later on down the road? Who knows?
It combines with the hydration vest and it becomes mega vest, mega hydration.
Or like I feel like the hydro hat has already existed in like the baseball world but it's like replace that with beer, right? I feel like
right.
I've seen that. But funny enough, like the hydro shirt, some people who are not runners have actually told me, oh, I could fill this up with like wine, you know? So,
perfect.
Like, go do whatever you want to do with it. You know, I don't really care.
Coachella will never be the same.
Yeah, exactly. But so do I have a notebook? Yeah. Well, not really a notebook. It's more like I keep my thoughts and all that and like the Google Drive, because I'm that person. But yeah, I mean, there's like so many ideas around how we want to continue to evolve the design. And like, even during this last month, which this was already the idea. I remember in college when I would participate in competitions, I would always, the idea was like, let's start with the hydro shirt. But I was always saying, it goes beyond just the shirt. Like, we want to do functional apparel. So that, and like, what does that look like for a runner? It's like a sleeveless tank. Can you do like a singlet or a sleeveless tank? Like a long sleeve? Can you do a jacket at some point? So that's kind of the idea there. And like, the biggest thing that has been requested already over the last month is like, oh, I hate sleeves. So I want can you do like a sleeveless hydro shirt at some point? And we're like, dude, yes, like we're already thinking about that. So there's ideas around the actual, like the primary product, which is like the shirt or like whatever kind of apparel that will look like. But then there's like really geeking out more into like certain features, adding more pockets, maybe changing the zipper, testing out different fabrics like that. There's like so much that I'm kind of like out of like not really putting my words together, because I'm excited about that is the best way to put it.
Add this to your Google Drive, because I somehow misplaced my heart rate monitor from my run on Saturday or on Sunday. The shirt has some sort of heart rate device that will Bluetooth to your Garmin watch.
Oh, wow. Now I'm going to have to hire somebody like a mechanical engineer. All right. Noted.
Just throw it in the Google Drive on the bottom under crazy ideas from Run Try Bike.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
So before we jump into our rapid fire, I do want to touch base on your work with Founded Outdoors and the Embark program through them, because the three of us on this conversation are people of color, entrepreneurs, and Founded Outdoors is for entrepreneurs. And then the Embark program that you talked about is helping founders of color in the outdoor space. So give us a little bit about Founded Outdoors and the Embark program so that those people who are interested in finding out more will be able to go and search it out.
Sure. Yeah. And happy to talk about Founded Outdoors too, because it's had such a big impact on my own journey as a founder. And so a couple years ago, 3 years ago now, I met Katie, who's one of the co-founders of Founded Outdoors. And she was just getting ready to basically put Founded Outdoors out there. And like they had, I mean, it hadn't even started. And her and I connected because she had started this Facebook group called Outdoor Entrepreneurs. And so similar to like what I said earlier, she was kind of testing the market, the demand, seeing what like founders in our industry kind of needed. And so I met her, I joined the Facebook group, I met her, and she was like, hey, we're actually getting ready to launch this program with REI called Embark. And, you know, this is going to be funneled into our company called Founded Outdoors. We're looking for a program manager. You know, like you've been working on Vessel for several years, so it seems like you have experience. In college too, I helped run an accelerator program, and I've gone through accelerator programs, all that's done the competitions with Vessel. So there was this portion of like, I had the experience. And then, you know, they're getting ready to launch this really exciting program called Embark. And what Embark is it's specifically for founders of color who are in the early stages of building an outdoor business. And so when I came across the opportunity, I was like, I'm all in. This is incredible. And you know, there's no other program out there like this that specifically targets early stage founders of color. And so, yeah, I joined 3 years ago now as the program manager. And we've gone through 3 programs since, so like an annual program, and we've seen maybe like 60 founders go through the program and build all sorts of different types of businesses that spans in the outdoor industry. And like outdoor industry is also a very broad term. Like, so I've seen companies who have, you know, created a solution or a product for runners or surfers or climbers, or specifically female climbers or cyclists. And so it's been really, really exciting. It like scratches the itch of like my passion for just entrepreneurship in general, not only building my own business, but also supporting. And so I feel like in a way I get the best of both worlds, because even though I help run the program, I learn so much in exchange. And like the value of a network is like just priceless.
I was going to say, I can imagine the amount of learning that takes place in these conversations, because we're all doing our best, you know, to get the word out about our product or service. How do we improve it? And by asking somebody who may not be involved in your space directly, but is involved in the outdoor space, to get their insight. Oh, I did this on my project or my product or my service, and this was successful, and how you can take that and mold it to fit your own business. It's got to be amazing to sit in on those conversations.
Yeah, totally. And then, you know, and so it's like we bring in mentors who have started, you know, multi-million-dollar brands in the outdoor industry, some of them who have like gone on to start their second company, or, you know, investors and all that stuff. So like, you know, experts in the space who come share their stories, focus, talk about a specific topic. We even brought in so basically the design team that I worked with to design the Hydro shirt. I actually brought them in to run a program around like apparel manufacturing for the Embark program, because that's like one of the biggest challenges for apparel founders. And so, yeah, it's been really rewarding just to be part of that, to learn. There's like, I'm always like learning something new. Like I said earlier, despite helping run the program, I'm also a student of this just like whole world of entrepreneurship, which is really exciting.
So before we get started with our rapid fire questions, where can the audience find Vessel Athletics and get some more information?
Yeah, so we are currently revamping the website because I mentioned that our Kickstarter campaign ended last Thursday. And so we're transitioning from Kickstarter over to our actual website where we'll be taking sales basically moving forward. So you can find us on our website at vesselathletics.com. Follow us on Instagram where, we're documenting very much a lot of the kind of behind the scenes things that takes place in our day-to-day lives building this business. So yeah, like I mentioned, there's a lot of changes that are happening to the website as we speak. So you could also check out our Kickstarter campaign. Even though it's ended, we have a lot of, we have an awesome video. We have a lot of information that really goes into the detail around like the design process and all that stuff. So you can get more information there as well. But definitely the website is like the long-term place to go to.
Awesome. And then Founded Outdoors, the website, what's the URL for Founded Outdoors?
It's foundedoutdoors.com. So yeah, if you are an outdoor entrepreneur and you are seeking out a community, so you're building anything from like a physical product to a service to some kind of an app, tech solution that has some kind of like outdoor recreation component to it, check out the Founded Outdoors community. We have a Slack channel where we have like somewhere between 400 to 500 founders there doing all sorts of different businesses all across the world at this point, I think. So yeah, just a great place to see community and also like get some support as well.
Awesome. Business is a lot of fun, but food can be more fun. So you ready for our rapid fire food questions?
Yeah, and I'm hungry, so.
Me too. So pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
So I heard this in one of the other podcasts, and I'm gonna have to say nay.
Yes.
But also like ranch on pizza though.
Oh. Oh,
ranch
no.
on pizza. Come on.
Wait, ranch on pizza?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. I'm like Jalen, my partner Jalen got me into that, and I'm like gonna go and blame him after. Like, dude.
Jalen is a smart man.
Jalen, you and I have to have a conversation.
Ranch on pizza is the best.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. So nay for pineapple, yay for ranch. I don't know.
You're totally forgiven for the pineapple thing.
As a younger gentleman, when I was in college, we would get blue cheese sauce, the stuff that you would dip wings into, and use that as sort of a sauce on pizza. But honestly, if you're not just getting a plain slice and you want to do something to it, the best thing to do is ask them to add cold mozzarella to the plain slice after it comes out, so that when you fold it, that like little extra melty component happens in there. Oh, it's fantastic.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, we do a lot of ranch with hot sauce too, just to like.
You gotta have hot sauce.
Our mouth. So.
Oreos. Are you an old school Oreo fan, a double stuff fan, a thin fan, which is nothing more than a cracker, or this new thing called the Cakester, which is nothing more than a ding dong?
Never heard of the Cakester. I'll probably go with the double.
The double stuff?
Yeah, double stuffed Oreo.
Licorice. Are you a fan of licorice?
Ooh, no. I do remember as a kid, I used to like just play with my food and drink water from the licorice. So I would use it as a straw. So, hey, that's a sustainable way, maybe.
Yes.
No, definitely not licorice to eat.
Candy corn. Is candy corn a real candy, or is it just earwax covered in sugar?
Oh, don't even. I mean, I used to love candy corn. I mean, it's still pretty delicious, but yeah, I'm okay. Candy corn. Yes. Yay. I will just.
Oh, no. Peeps. Is Peeps a real candy, or is it nothing more than a sponge covered in glitter?
Sponge covered in glitter. I gotta
Yes.
get that one. Yeah.
It's amazing that stuff still sells. Like, who's buying this stuff?
My mom.
There's the answer we've looked for 111.
Yeah, and we have a big family of cousins. I'm 13 cousins of mine, so she just gives everyone.
It's tradition to bring this back up every once in a while, but we had a guest way early on the dog days of the Fireside Chat who talked about peep jousting, where you take toothpicks, stick them into both peeps, put them in the microwave, and they'll joust as they expand.
Okay. I don't know what. Yeah, did that come after a couple Like some like marijuana or something.
Right after they poured wine out of the hydro shirt.
Full circle.
Yeah, like, I don't know, but that's awesome. I mean, no judgment to that person.
Lots of judgment. Like, no, just don't do it.
Maybe that's why they're selling.
Yeah, could be. Peanut butter or nut butter if you have allergies. Do you go with creamy or crunchy?
Ooh, creamy. I used to have a bad addiction for peanut butter, so.
So for the next question, it's a option question. Is a hot dog a sandwich or is it a taco?
Ooh, it's a sandwich.
Yeah, because the bread is thicker, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you eat hot dogs?
No, I don't eat meat actually. So I'm a pescatarian. So no. And I just the other day, my mom was like, "Oh, give these hot dogs to the dogs," and I was like, what is this?" Like, I just was staring at the hot dog, and I was like, "What in the world is this?"
They do make vegan. I eat a plant-based lifestyle too. Cheese is really the only thing that enters into my life is dairy, but they make vegan hot dogs and they're phenomenal these days compared to when I first started like 12, 13 years ago. Such a big difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That whole world of like, my partner just made vegan ribs over the weekend. They were like pretty delicious. So yeah, we're getting spoiled now.
There you go. Is red velvet cake a real flavor or is it just chocolate cake dressed up to go to the prom?
It's a real flavor. Come on.
No, it's not. It's just chocolate cake with red food dye. You know better.
It's a real, I'm still gonna go with it's a real flavor.
The people that say it's a real flavor have tended to say yes, but it's because of the cream cheese frosting. They love the cream cheese frosting.
Okay, yeah, well that's fair. Yeah.
But I ask them, but you can get cream cheese frosting on carrot cake, and that's a much better option.
Oh, I don't know about that.
What?
I don't know about that one.
Thumbs down on carrot cake?
Yeah, I mean, I think if like when the carrot cake maybe I've had is like I taste the actual like carrot, maybe like the baked carrot.
Like a chunk?
Yeah, so it's like.
Oh yeah, that's not good carrot cake.
I don't know. I haven't had carrot cake in a very long time.
I'm gonna have to drive north and bring you a slice of carrot cake.
Okay.
Favorite ice cream flavor is?
Oh, this is gonna be. I'll go with like
There's nothing better than a person who gets stumped on ice cream. That means you love it, and you're like, I want to have all the flavors. I can't just pick one.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So there's the Milk. Have you heard of the Milk brand? Have you both heard of Milk? Yeah. I mean, basically anything from them. So like maybe the actual cereal ice cream. That's just incredible. Very expensive though.
I just did a Food Fight Friday recently. What's your favorite cereal?
Favorite cereal. Ooh, also a hard one. I'll go with one of the more sugar, heavy on the sugar. The not frosted flakes. What's the colorful one with all the colors?
Oh, is that Fruit Loops?
No, not the Fruity Pebbles. That's the one. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
That's a great option. Like, it's hard to go wrong with cereal, honestly. Like, if I'm going that route, like the kids cereal for me, it's Captain Crunch with berries. That's the path.
Yeah, Captain Crunch is also.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, totally.
What's your favorite candy bar?
Well, are M&Ms okay? Actually, sorry.
Absolutely, favorite candy.
Clearly the last three questions have been really difficult, but I'm gonna actually go back and say a Recess. Reese's or Recess also another question.
The life of an entrepreneur: ice cream stump question, candy stump question, and trying to figure out what to eat at these days, like when you're working 12, 13, 14 hours. That's truly the life of an entrepreneur, isn't it?
Sure.
And I mean, that was going to be my follow-up too when you said you were a peanut butter addict, because it's like Reese's is definitely, chocolate and peanut butter, can't go wrong there.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, here's the last question for you. A warm tray of brownies just comes out of the oven. Are you going towards the edge where you get a little bit of crust, or are you going to the center where you have more of the ooey gooey section?
My childhood self would have been right in the center, but I think as I've gotten older, I appreciate the crust. So I'm going to go with the crust, the center area, which includes some crust. So
there you go. Do you are you a person who puts ice cream on top of their brownie?
Sure, absolutely. Why not?
That's a
what's
good answer.
the issue with that? Yeah.
No issue. And this is my parting shot for almost every time I ask this question for everybody. Is if you like coffee, the best way to enjoy a brownie is to put a brownie in the bottom of a coffee mug, top it with coffee ice cream or coffee gelato, and as it starts to melt, you wind up basically with this ultra chocolatey mocha coffee, right? And it's fantastic. So when you celebrate your $1 million in sales for the Hydro shirt, that's where you got to go.
Okay, and that sounds incredible. Why can't I just do that tomorrow?
But if you do, please take a picture and share it with us.
Okay, I do have. Okay, maybe not tomorrow, but I will do it though because I'm like that sounds really delicious. We got to go get the brownie batter first, but yeah, I will. I'll make sure to send you a photo.
Love it, Jasmine. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you chatting with us. For everybody who's interested in the Hydro shirt, it's vesselathletics.com. Go check out their website as it's getting revamped. Go to Kickstarter. Follow Jasmine's business, Vessel Athletics, on Instagram. Looking forward to seeing your business grow. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you both for having me.
Have a great night, everybody.